Okay, this video is part of a four-part video series in which I show how we can connect a React app that is not connected to uh, a database, and we can take that and we can connect it to Firebase, Google Firebase database. Right now, this as it is a Brad Traversy React app. You can find it by just Googling to do dot learn or learn React Brad Traversy on YouTube, and you find this code uh, in the instructional video that goes along with it. Right now this works as a sort of locally as an app where delete you can delete stuff, you can update stuff, you can add to it, and as it is, I mean, it gets all, so it does all the crud to create, read, update, and delete uh, things that you would want from an application. However, it's not connected to a database. So we're going to do that this first video. We're going to set it up and create. Then after that, we're going to read. Then we're going to update, and then we're going to delete. So we'll show you how you can simply do that for each of them. So in this first thing, you want to just go to Firebase.Google.com. Just go here, and once you go there, it should say get started. I'll make this bigger because we're just focused on this right now. So you just press get started, and once you're there, you should press create a project. You get to enter a name. So I'll just say new project, like that. Press continue. You do not need Google Analytics. Create a project. And continue. And once you're here, it says get started by adding Firebase to your app. So you want to choose this one right here, the web. And again, pick a name. So just say new project, register app. And then this piece of information that they give you is really important. You need this, so you want to grab that whole thing all the way from where it says Firebase config down to Firebase initialize app. Grab that and then copy it, and then you can continue to the console. The next thing you want to do is click on this, click on Cloud Firestore, and go to create database. Now create database, there are rules. This says allow read write, if false. I would go to test mode, which just basically gives a 30-day opportunity for people to read or write to the database. So then press next, and then select the region. Okay, so after that, it brings you to the actual place where you're going to see all the data. So you're in good shape if you're right here. The next thing you want to do is, for all that information, remember when we went, you can go into settings. If you didn't grab the information that you need, go into settings and go down here again. Grab this right here, and you'll have what you need. So you're going to use that, and you're going to on the same level folder-wise as app.js. You want to make a file. We're going to call it Firebase.js. So make a file right like that, and then once I do that, I'm gonna go down here and copy it like that. At the top of the page, I want to say import Firebase from, and then in quotes, Firebase, and then semicolon, and then after that, import quotes at, and it should say at, and this thing right there is what I want, at Firebase.Firestore. Now, at this point, if you've just done this, you have not installed these things. Probably haven't installed these things. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But you want to make sure that you go to inside the folder on your terminal and type in, and I'll make this a little larger so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. So we just say import Firebase. I'm sorry. npm install Firebase. And then you would do the same thing, press enter, and you'd say npm install what's inside these quotes. So you just grab this and put that right here without the quote. I don't need that quote. So you would just do npm install both of these things in green without the quotes, and once you do that, it will install what you need. So from here, I'm just going to Control C out of this, and I'm going to go back to npm start to get myself back in. Okay, so the other thing that you want to do after you have done that, after you've installed, is you want to write at the bottom of this page, export. So that started, that's why that happened. Default, and then you want to say Firebase, like that. Okay, so that basically is just gonna, it's just gonna default or send out this information. So now, once you've done that, you've created what you need. You have to then go to the actual file where you're going to be using it. So that would be inside, for me, it'd be inside the app.js, and I'll go at the top right here, and I'll write import Firebase from, and it'll be in quotes, I'll say Firebase like that, just like that. Okay, so that's being installed. It's not being used yet, and that's why it's not highlighted like some of these other ones. But okay, so we're ready to basically show how this can be used. Again, this is where our database is, and all the information will show up here. Right now, when typically, just to show how the application works, we have this function which allows us to add, and it's connected to this button here. So this button right here carries that function out, so that when we type something in, it adds to this, right? Well, we want to make sure that when we do this same thing again with anything, that it will submit it to this right here. So that's what we're hoping to do. So in order to do that, I'm gonna first copy this, add to do, just make sure it's copied, copy, and then I'm gonna put it right below it. But I'm gonna comment this one out just so that we can see exactly. I can refer to it. What's happening in this thing is that right here it's calling Axios. It's calling Axios, and it's posting, and it posts with the properties of what it wants to post. So it wants to bring in the title, which is brought in when on the button click, and then also it's bringing in another property called completed false, right? And then after that, this is happening where we're set to-dos. We're setting the to-dos with a list of to-dos. So that's what accounts for, having more to-dos set. Okay, so that happens right now as it is as it is put together, okay? But we're going to get rid of Axios, and we're going to get rid of all this stuff as well. So all we want to do at this point, we want the same button click to make sure, or to send it to the database. And again, we're going to bring in the title just as we did for the original one. So the way we do that is we have to make a call to the database. So in order to do that, I'm first going to say const db equals Firebase.Firestore, and then this. So I'm going to make reference to that right there, and then I say collection, and then here's where I'm just naming the collection. As you can see, when you go back here, there's no collection. Okay, it's not, you know, but you can sort of take care of that right here, where you just name a collection. So I'll just call this collection to-dos. Okay. So now, after we do that, you're right, we need to create a document, and we need an ID for that document. So I'm going to say doc, and then I'll just put 12. You can put any number, and then I'll just say dot set, and this is where we get the properties of what we want to create within the document. So I'm just going to go like, sorry, it should be an object there. So within the object, I'm going to write title will be title, which is basically a reference to the information that was taken in when the button was clicked. And then I'll write completed, just as I did in the other one, completed, and that'll be false. So again, that was the same thing that was happening here, right? We're just stating the properties. And then the last thing I'm going to write is comma ID, and I'm going to say the ID is going to be, let's just say 12 as well. Okay, so right now this should work. Again, remember, for the previous one that we had with this, it worked when we entered some information and then we pressed enter. So this is the same idea. All we're doing here is we're just contacting the database. We're naming the database, and then we are saying what the document number should be. And I'll change this just so that you can see the difference. I'll change it to 1, and we'll see how that changes things. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back to the actual application. And now inside here, remember, it's add to do. The function is the same. It just has different information in it. So it was like this. It's now like this. So that when I press, let's say, title, like that. Now I just press submit. So you didn't see anything happen here because I took away the original thing. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to update, and now you see. So let's take a look at what we have here. The collection is called to-dos. It's as simple for this as this line right here. We created the collection. Okay. The next thing is what was the number given for the collection? That was 12. So that was from this right there. And then you notice ID 1. Well, that's just another property, right there. Okay. Now, there are a lot of times when you're going to want to have a piece of have a we'll say a document be accessible by its ID, right? In which case you want to have the ID be the same as this ID here. And the way you do that is I'm going to show you how you do that, because again, you really will want to be able to access data by getting its ID. So you would say, for that, you would say, let's say const datas equals like this. And then inside that, I'm going to say ID. What is the ID going to be? The ID is going to be Firestore, parentheses. Actually, I'm going to bring this over to the next line, make it look cleaner. ID Firestore, and then dot collection, and then we'll say the same collection called to-dos, and then we'll say dot document, and we'll say dot ID. Okay, so let's see if that works for us. So now inside here where it says which document do you want, or what do you want the document ID to be, you would say datas dot ID. Hold up, I'm getting an error here. Oh, I forgot to write. So I forgot to write Firebase. So ID is Firebase, just as I did right there, just as I did right here, Firebase.Firestore. So you can't forget that. Actually, yeah, that looks cleaner. Okay, cool. So again, this is right here when I put my thing over this, you can see it says the document identifier within its collection. So right now the ID is 1. I'm going to change this to 2 just so that they're different IDs, and we'll see what happens there. So again, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say, and we're using the same system. I'm just going to say like this, and now I press enter, so that means something should be up here. And now it did not work. Okay, so we're gonna have to do something else as well. You see the ID 2, and you see this is a whole different ID. So what we're gonna do to make sure that that changes is we have this right here, this thing right here. We want this ID to be this, okay? So in order to do that, we're gonna go back into this, and instead of saying ID is 2, I'm going to try this. I'm going to say ID is datas dot ID, like that, and we'll see if that works. So then this is creating its own ID right there, and then this is saying we want the ID within the document to be whatever this is. Okay, so we're going to go like this, and I'll hold on. I got to make one new one. So new one like this. Press enter. It doesn't show up here, obviously. I'm going to go like this, and now you can see this one. This WPPC2, and what that allows you to do is to be able to access this document, the whole thing, the whole document from within, which is important for you to be able to do. Now, there is more to this, and if you notice right here, there's a series of things that I want to do within the original, which is just to say, okay, after I submit this, then I'm gonna do this, and this. I'm gonna do this thing right there, and then I'm gonna do this thing right there. I'm gonna set to-dos. Okay. In my case, for right now, I could add this like right after this right here. I could write a dot then. Okay. But I don't want to get into that part. I mean, if I did, it would look like dot. Let me just say, it would say dot then, and then I'd have parentheses, another set of parentheses, And then after that, I would have an arrow function like that, and then this, and then inside here, I could write function name like this, and then whatever function I wanted, I could put right there. Okay, so if I had, okay, I want to run this function after this happens, this is how it would look. And then I just put a semicolon after that. But that would allow for you to do anything right after you complete this part right here. Okay, and again, in terms of creating an app and stuff, you would want to make sure that you set the state, because that would allow for the functionality of the app to work as it did when it was local in the JSON placeholder. So it's as simple as that to connect. Again, we don't need this part where I'm gonna take away this. We don't need this dot. Then it's just sort of a feature that you might want to use after you send the data to the database. So that's it for the first of 4 that in this video we set up the database, and then we created.